it's Lee from coloringqueen.net, and I wanted to give you a comparison between these two books. They are really different, although the covers are the same. And I also want to let you know, if you haven't seen them already, there are flip throughs for each of the books on my channel, and there are also extended reviews showing how they went when I tested various mediums with them, both wet and pencils. So you can see those at the links below. I'll also be having a giveaway for the Rising hardback colouring book, so keep an eye out on the channel for that. So let's start at the beginning. On the left hand side I have Rising, which is the hardback edition. This book was released first, and on the right hand side I have Rising, which is a click-bound edition, which has just been released, and it's a bit of an experiment to see how or if colorists like the actual binding and the way that the book is put together. So the hardback edition has a hardback cover. It's very strong and sturdy on both sides. In the middle we have this beautiful decal of the gorgeous artwork, and that artwork is in the book for you to colour as well. We also have some gold foiling on the title, and some of these leaves in gold foiling as well. Now on the click-bound edition we have, I believe, a smudge-proof cover. I've had it for a few weeks now and it hasn't smudged, even though I have been pouring at it constantly. We don't have a border around the artwork on the cover, which fills the entire page, and there isn't any gold foiling. There's a coloured title and coloured leaves instead. The artwork just basically goes for the entire cover without any border whatsoever. Now this is a card cover, and although it's sturdy and it's laminated, it's a card cover rather than a hardback cover, so it may not be as durable in the long term. You can see that the click-bound edition is slightly bigger. However, the pages that have the illustrations on them are the same size as the pages in the hardback colouring book. And the reason that it's bigger is because in the hardback you lose some of the pages in the gutter of the binding on the side, whereas in the click-bound edition an additional amount has been added to the page to cover the area where the binding is. So the image size is the same, but the page, it just looks like it's larger. Now the click-bound version is slightly bulkier than the hardback edition, and that's to completely cover the click binding on it. On the back of the book we've got the hardback and the same pattern on both books, but obviously this is a hardback and this is a card cover. The print run for the hardback edition was a lot larger than the print run for the click-bound edition, which was an extremely limited print run. And I don't know whether they'll be repeating that print run or not, but if you have managed to snag a copy of the click-bound edition, pat yourself on the back, because that was an extremely small print run. The real difference is inside on the click-bound edition we have an introduction from the artist Karolina Kubikowska on the inside cover. On the hardback edition we have protective paper, which is white, and this is different from the colouring page paper, which is an off-white. Then we have the title page, and then we have the introduction. Now the introduction is on a separate page in the hardback book, whereas in the click-bound version it's on the front cover. So that means in the hardback book you have at least one page and a page at the end where you can test out your mediums on it that's the same paper as the colouring pages. Now in the click-bound edition you don't have those additional pages. The biggest difference between the two books though is the binding. The binding on this click-bound edition is something that I have never seen before in a colouring book. The hardback book is glue and stitch bound, whereas the click-bound book, it's actually bound with not only coil binding, but it's a plastic coil binding that can be opened and snapped shut. Now, this plastic binding, you can just put your finger there and actually click them all open, or do them individually as I am. Because they're plastic rather than metal, they may break if you're a little bit rough with them. So I'm just doing them individually, one by one. Now, 2 of my plastic coils have already broken since I've had the books, just from my handling of them. And while they still will shut, they won't completely snap close because the little snap lock has broken off. So do be careful with them. Mine were packaged impeccably, so you really need to be careful with them. They weren't broken in transit. I'm sure it was definitely me that broke them. So this binding allows you to actually take out a page, and you can take that out, you can colour it, and that might be easier for you than in the book. You can then frame it. I actually photocopied a page so I could work out a colour scheme on the photocopy before I committed to the book, but it just gives you so much more flexibility. If you want to, when you finish, you can put it back in the book, or you could put it in a frame, or you could do whatever you fancy with it. So that's a real advantage, especially if you're like a left-handed colorist, or you prefer coloring on a mat, or you don't like to take the whole book with you, or you want to make multiple copies so that you can experiment like I did with different color palettes and whatnot. And then when you want to, you can just snap open the book and go to any page that you like, click it open, take out the page that you want. Easy as. Now, while we're talking about the pages, this is a white, bright paper, and it's a medium quality. It's got a light texture on it. I believe it's 150 GSM, but if I'm wrong on that, I will put a link in the description below. Now, the pages in the hardback edition, they're actually an off-white, and if you can see on camera, there is a difference there in the colours, but the page size that has the illustration is actually the same. There's no difference except in the click-bound edition you have this additional edging here to cover the binding, so you're not missing out on any image colouring. And because you can take it out of the book, and because it's got that extra, if the image goes right to the edge, you're not going to have any trouble colouring it. And if you're a left-hand colourist and you often have difficulty colouring pages that are on the right side of a book, you can take it out and colour it however you fancy. Now, the click-bound edition has all of the gorgeous images, the same as in the hardback edition, but it doesn't have those ancillary pages, the introduction page and the copyright page. So if you're looking to test out your mediums, and you can have a look at my video below where I tested out the mediums, you'd have to do it on the title page of the book. There just aren't any additional pages that you can use for swatching. So on the back cover of the book, it is really sturdy and quite thick. Looks to be about at least 3 millimeters thick. And we have the copyright information that was actually on a page in the hardback edition. It's actually printed on the back cover of this book. I would actually like to see a page that could be used for swatching that's out of the same paper that the colouring images are printed on. But that's just a personal thing for me. It might not matter for you. Now, a picture like this that goes right up to the side in this clickbound edition, you can just take this out and you don't have to worry about getting your pencil right down there in the gutter. Now, in the hardback edition, you have to press the book down very firmly and get in there in the gutter with your pencil. Whereas if you have this image, you just take it out of the book, you colour it, it's so much easier. And if you're left-handed, it's going to make a real difference in your life. I really love the concept of the click binding for our colouring pages, and we're just so used to seeing this in our office and school stationery supplies, but not in a colouring book world. At least I haven't seen it. I've never seen a colouring book with click binding. I've only ever seen spiral bound. And the great thing about that click binding is that usually with spiral binding, the coil isn't covered. I don't know about you guys, But when I put spiral bound books on my shelf, the exposed spiral binding tends to rub against the dust jackets on my other books and it can tear the covers. So I've got them all on a separate shelf nowadays. But with this binding, the coil is covered and it protects not only the book, but also other books on my shelf. And so far, the cover on the clickbound book is holding up fine for me. I've had it for the last few weeks. I don't know whether in the long term it's going to hold up as well because it's only a card cover. And I certainly would expect that the hardback would be far more durable in the long term. But so far, this cover is holding up really well for me without any damage. So to sum up, the hardback edition will offer you a sturdy, luxury, hard-wearing colouring book, but you don't have the advantage of being able to remove the pages and to be able to colour in right up to the edge of the page. The clickbound edition offers the ability to have ease of colouring and page removal for copying and colouring, but without any ancillary pages to test out your mediums on, for example. It also doesn't have the sturdiness of the hardback, and you do need to be careful with those plastic coils to ensure they don't break. Both books offer really high quality paper, single-sided images, and the stunning artwork that we associate with Karolina Kubikowska. So I think I've covered the major differences between the two books, and as I said, you can see a full flip through an extended review of both of the books, but both of these books are absolutely gorgeous no matter which one you end up with. But I'd really love to know which version of the book you prefer. Do you like the hardback? It's sturdy, readily available, or do you like the clickbound version? You can take out the pages, that lovely ability to so easily frame them. I love both of them, but I'd love to know your favourite. And if you manage to snag a clickbound version, I'd love to know what you think of this binding. So that's it for me. Until next time, stay safe and happy colouring.